Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Welcome to the Nanosecond Podcast. With your hosts, Erik Nannarone, Nick Goglioni, and Pat Morrow. Interesting topics, intriguing conversation, and entertainment. Erik, Nick, and Pat will be right with you.
Hello and welcome to the Nanosecond Podcast. I'm Erik.
And I'm Pat.
And today, our guest is John Thomson. He is the one he's behind the Dog Pound area for the Cleveland Browns.
And
How are you today?
I got to tell you, John, there's not many people on this show that get this, but get ready. Welcome.
Thanks, Pat.
As Erik said, we got Big Dog Thomson here, and it's great to have you, man.
No doubt. It's an honor to be asked to be on the show. I'm great that you asked.
I didn't mean to interrupt Erik there, but sometimes you just got to keep an eye on him.
Yeah. And also, I got to keep an eye on you because you need to flip your screen, Pat.
Flip my screen? You need to come on camera.
Piggyback off last year. I hope that their main objective is to win at home. All those, eight victories at home was huge last year. I think it catapulted them to the position that they got in. And if they can add some more road victories onto that, onto the number that they had last year, they're going to be right there. They have a very good chance of winning the division. And it's a coin toss. I believe the North, every single team's solid and like it was last year. But if we stay healthy and knock on wood, and I think we're going to be right there.
All right.
It's a little concerning. Hold on, that we don't know who our starting left tackle is going to be. Who do you think it's going to be?
I'm not sure, but I know this, that whether they move what's his name over there or not,
Conklin.
Help me, yes, Conklin. I'm sure that they're going to be confident whatever they do. I mean, that they have they have a new offensive line coach this year, but all those players have been around, like the best offensive line coach in football. And it was tough to lose him, but I think they'll be fine. I really do. I think the offensive line, I think they'll be all right.
All right. I got some, if we're going to talk this kind of football, we got to argue here.
All right. There you go.
All right. I share, I guess, a similar idea with you as far as I think they're going to hit probably 9 or I've told one person on another sports show that we do here that I thought they'd be lucky to get to 10 wins. This is all going to depend on quite a bit. The healthiness is one thing. When you start going through 3 and 4 lines of people and call a quarterback off the couch to come in and play for your team, you just gotta hope and pray that the stuff's going to stay together. We couldn't afford to lose another Nick Chubb. We can't afford to lose somebody like the quarterback.
Watson.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm old. I'm old like you are.
I'm right with you, Pat. So you might be digging me out of a hole here.
You just got to take and know that if I knew at the end of this or at the first of the season this last year what I knew at the last, you'd be amazed at the way things worked out. Andrew Berry was a he was a draft genius as far as that's concerned, and as far as free agency and pulling people off the wire, he was a genius at that stuff. That's why they got them like they did last year. But can they do that again this year? Can you keep Watson healthy?
Let's hope they don't get in that spot. I think they were in a situation last year where they were basically devastated. I mean, you lose Nick Chubb so early, and they pulled through it. I mean, that team played hard and they never quit. They like I said, they won 8 games at home. That's a record. I mean, that's incredible. And I think that if they get any kind of a break and are able to stay healthy for any amount of time this year, and I think that they're going to do well. I think they're going to be definitely win 10 games. I honestly believe that they should have no problem. I mean, it's all in the beginning of the game, though. I mean, at the beginning of the season. I mean, it's all how you start in the NFL. If you get in a hole, it's hard to dig out of a hole. So this first game coming up, I mean, Dallas, they're coming into Cleveland, and we have to have that place crazy. I mean, that stadium has to be, loud and real loud, and we have to make an impact like we did last year. The fans, I know the Jet game, it was incredible. The noise and it was fantastic, and that's a big help. And for a long time, I don't know that we had that ruckus noise in the home stadium. So I think that there's a lot of positive stuff going on with the team in the last couple of years. The Haslams, I mean, they're amazing. They're trying anything to help get us to the Super Bowl, and I'm impressed with what they do with this money deal. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, they're able to restructure these contracts. Now all of a sudden, we have the most money to spend in the league, and $62 million or something. It's crazy.
Had Andrew Berry, like I said, he's a flipping genius when it comes to this stuff. How do you talk that guy? How do you talk Watson into taking a bonus instead of his, what he's due to be paid, taking a bonus so it'll free up your cap space? Do you realize what they did there? Some of that stuff is going to be folded over for next year. By the way, hello, Evan.
I'm listening.
They're going to take and they're going to fold some of that $62 million over into next year. So don't expect any major purchases.
They're going to have to be able to keep some money to keep guys on that they're paying now. They're going to have to pay some salaries, and that's going to go there. But this way, if anything happens during this season, if we're in contention and we do unfortunately have some kind of a situation where we lose someone, we're going to have some money to go get somebody. And same scenario if it gets down to the playoff time of the year and we need 1 or 2 players or something to, that becomes available to help us get over the hump and get to the Super Bowl. We have that option now. We have $62 million under the cap to spend. That's a great position to be in.
And it's the highest
in the best
NFL.
in the league. And that's some great movement.
That's the highest in the NFL from what I heard.
It is. Yep, absolutely.
But anyway,
That's incredible. And they did that. They did that 2 years ago, I believe, too. It was like they put themselves in that same, position to have that kind of funding, and that's huge. Like I said, that puts you in a great spot.
I'm gonna predate you a little bit. All right.
All right.
I've been watching this Browns team since 1964. I'm 70 years old. I was 7 years old when I started watching football, and my dad got me into it because that's all he'd watch on weekends was for Saturdays and Sundays both. And I watched the last game that they actually would have been like the championship. Was that against like the Vikings or somewhere? God, I can't.
Yeah, we lost in that game. If it's the game that I'm thinking of, well,
they were the champion. That was the last time they had a championship was in '64.
Right, it was same. I want to say '69 maybe.
But right before the Super Bowl and everything like that come around, that come around what '67 or something like that, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The Minnesota game I remember was I think it was like '69, and they beat us in the they had the big Indian. They called him the quarterback. Was oh man.
Oh God! Now I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of his name.
That's why I said you dig me out of the hole. I'm terrible with names, but it's oh geez.
Anyway, my point is I've watched from high to low and everything in between. That's 31 and 1 and everything. I've watched Brian Sipe, who was a master of a quarterback. I've watched Bernie Kosar, who was another master. Even Testaverde wasn't bad.
Right? Yeah, he's a good quarterback. Absolutely.
You see, with the highs and lows of this team, it's what has actually really kept me into watching this team. Do you feel the same way? Is that what?
Yeah,
what drives you to watch this thing?
They've reached a pinnacle where they give you that, like it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it never happened.
I've watched Red Right 88. I've watched the fumble. Oh, good God!
I've been at all those games. It's myself. Actually, I was in both of those games. All three of the Denver games, 2 out in Denver and 1, in Cleveland. The drive, but the Red Right 88 game. That was one of the coldest games I was ever at. I didn't go to this game. Was it not last year, but the year before, the real cold game that we had here in Cleveland? My daughter went with her husband. But I remember the Red Right 88 game. That was incredible. I used to play a sport called broom hockey, and a number of the offensive linemen had contacted the league in Lakewood at Winterhurst about getting shoes, broom hockey shoes, which they wore in that game. It's kind of incredible. And those are like they're like a high top tennis shoe, but had a very soft cushion on the bottom with suction cups. And that field was so frozen that day. I think it was like with the wind chill over 40 degrees below or something, if I'm not mistaken. And they wore those, but that game was just insane. I still can't believe when that interception happened, how quiet the stadium got.
Yeah, and everybody knew that was going to be there didn't have to be anything else happen. Brown's luck. It was a curse. The curse on the lake.
Just to interject real quick, were you guys thinking of Jim Plunkett?
Plunkett, yeah.
No. Jim Plunkett was with the Raiders. He was the quarterback for the Red Right 88 game, but the Minnesota quarterback was, Jim
was the Big Indian. That was his nickname. At least according to the internet.
Who was that?
Go ahead. Jim Plunkett was the Big Indian. according to the internet, which could be wrong.
Yeah, that's
If you're just tuning in,
not the same guy.
we have John Big Dog Thomson with us tonight, and we're talking Browns. You know why? Because here comes the Browns. I do want to let Evan in here for a minute. He's the quiet Browns fan. Yeah.
Oh, a little more than that. But yes, I'll go along with that. I remember being at the stadium, with my marching band, probably during the Bernie Kosar era. So I remember going to a couple of those games. I don't know if I wasn't quite as deep into it when Bernie Kosar was there. My guy was Bryant Sight. That Red Right 88 really broke me. That was the one that just tore me to ribbons. And I'm still waiting for us to reach that, at least that stage. So I think that this team can do it, but show me. That's really my motto here right now is show me. So want to know how you feel about that, John?
Well, I agree with it, and that was like I said, being at that game, that was like a dagger in the heart. I thought for sure that there was no way, we're playing this team from Southern California, and not to think that we weren't going to be winning that game and moving on in the playoffs that year. And they were the first wild card team, believe it or not. The Raiders in that game, Red Right 88. That was the very first year of wild card playoffs, and they were the first wild card team, and they actually went on to win the Super Bowl that year, which was even crazier. It was devastating, but that team was so exciting with all the players that they had. I mean, with Ozzie Newsome and you had some of the catches that what's his name that went out to Denver. He was their announcer. 85. Here I go with names again, but
Brennan? Was that Brian Brennan?
No, he was 86, but this guy was he was before Brian Brennan, but he was the announcer for the Denver Broncos for a number of years. He might still be doing it. I'm sure he probably is. It's oh gosh, come on! I'm terrible. I'm so bad with names when I'm trying to think. But number 85, and I'm sure the number. It's and that'll come to me. I'll think of it. But that game, we had so many close games. I mean, it was so exciting. I mean, they brought it right down to the end. Erik, if you remember, like we won in so many games at the last second, and it was so exciting. It was, and they were the nickname of, that team was the Cardiac Kids, obviously, which, it was a great season. That was fantastic. I mean, the other games in the 80s, 85, 86, 87, and 89. We were in the playoffs those 4 years, when Bernie was a quarterback. The first year was Bernie's rookie year, which was the first year that the dog pound actually started that year. And it didn't really become the dog pound until probably about halfway or further through the season. But we ended up losing to the Dolphins, if you recall, in the playoffs in 85. William Davenport ran over Don Rogers for the winning touchdown. And then we came back in 86, and that was the year of the drive. Went to the playoffs. We beat the Jets in double overtime in Cleveland Stadium. And then 87, we ended up losing in the fumble in Denver. And then 88, we had all the injuries of all the quarterbacks. We ended up with 5 quarterbacks that year. Bernie got hurt, and Don Strock, we brought him in off the golf course, I believe. And then 89, we went back to the playoffs out to Denver, and that was a year that was kind of unexpected of making it back because you had Bubba Baker, and Carl Harrison were our defensive ends, and that was their last year. I mean, they were like at the end of their careers, and we went out there and competed for our third championship. So those were some great years. I mean, and then and then we ended up that team came to the point where it was time to retire, and that was a tough thing for Cleveland. That was the start of a lot of hard times. But when we had to start letting those guys go, and that was when Belichick came in, and after Bud Carson's 1 year in '89 when we went to that playoff game, to the championship game actually. But then we lost all those players. We lost our two starting linemen, and it was Ricky Bolden and it was who was our other offensive lineman, Robert Jackson. I couldn't think of it. I'm sorry, but yeah. So that was a tough time because once all those guys were done, you had to start rebuilding the team, and it meant getting rid of the guys that you had, and that all it was really hard for Cleveland to accept that. Especially there was some media that made it even harder because they didn't want to let those guys go. So, but.
And the name you were looking for, Dave Logan.
Yes, thank you very much, Dave Logan. It's perfect. That's it. Yeah, he was outstanding. He made some circus catches during that season. I remember. I want to believe it was against the Green Bay Packers. He made a one-handed touchdown catch. There was just such an exciting season that year.
And I can answer another question here. The quarterback that you were trying to think of for the Vikings when they beat us in the 60s, that's Joe Kapp. He was a veteran of the Canadian Football League, and he played for a bunch of years with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
That's the man. That's definitely him. Yeah, he beat us in that championship game. I'll never forget. That was, I think, 60, if I'm not mistaken, 69. It was either 68 or 69. Yep. And the same year was, I think, Ohio State got beat by Stanford, and the quarterback for that team was who we were just talking about with the Raiders was the other quarterback we just said,
Jim Plunkett.
Jim Plunkett, exactly correct. And then he came back to beat us again. That was what was so tough about the Red Right 88 game for me is, I was furious because, this guy did it to us again. Being a Buckeye fan as well as a Browns fan, that was tough to handle.
Well, as far as quarterbacks, I can't think of. Like I said, I'm terrible with names. What was this last year's quarterback?
Flacco.
Yeah, Flacco. If you look at the history of that guy, he's been a menace to us. He's beat us every time he's come into the stadium, pretty much. He's even beaten us when he was on our own team. If you look at it the way I do, every time, it didn't matter what team he was on, they'd come in here and wail nuts on our head.
Jets.
The
Good
Jets,
example.
Exactly.
I was there.
And he'd come in and he'd clobber us.
Yeah,
so then when they picked him up, I thought, well, I don't really like this guy, but then he started showing some promise, He did all right. And then
he got in that he throws the ball.
Then he got in that playoff game and threw both threw an interception right one after another, and they were pick sixes. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that son of a bitch gonna excuse my French. He's gonna beat us. He's on our own team,
right?
You think about that, jeez.
That was tough. That's a tough situation. And, he did have that in his past where he, for Baltimore, he lost some games with those big interceptions at the wrong time. And that's part of his MO. But He did beat us. I'll tell you that. He won a lot of games against the Browns for sure.
He even beat us when he was on our own team.
But
Only the Browns, shot. Only the Browns.
we talk about like last year how the environment atmosphere was electric at the stadium. You know, they're going to be missing one of their biggest, fans and supporters this year with Jim Donovan not being.
Yeah, Jimmy is that's a tough deal. That's I know I know Jimmy, and I knew Nev, and I knew Casey, and I knew all those guys. I got a chance to meet all of them, and it's just unbelievable to think that another guy so young. I mean, they all. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but hopefully it's not over for Jimmy as far as his fight. I'm sure he's going to fight like hell until the end. So I remember a real quick story I'll share with you with myself and Jim Donovan was we were talking about the championship games. We were out in Denver in 1989 for the championship game. And we're at the Browns Hotel, and Nev Chandler was still doing the play-by-play at the time. And we're in the hotel, and we're in the hotel bar. It was probably about, I don't know, maybe 1:30 in the morning, and we're sitting in the bar, and it was kind of quiet in the bar. And there were a few players, a few people sitting at the tables. Some of the players, family members, and then there was me and Jim were sitting at the bar at the end of the bar, and we were talking. And there was a couple that came into the bar, a guy and his wife, and they were just like totally obnoxious and loud. And they were talking about how the Browns are going to get their asses kicked tomorrow, and how Elway's going to crush us, and we're going to go down for the third time, 3 strikes and you're out. They were making all these comments, and there was at one of the tables a girl and a guy, and the guy was a big Samoan guy. He must have been 6'3", 6'4", and just a big guy. He had flip-flops, just a monster, And then there was a girl sitting with them, this other lady, and we're sitting there, and then all of a sudden the lady got up and told this woman that was yelling with her husband to shut the hell up. And the lady came over and they got into it, and it was pretty crazy. But it was the two people were they were insurance agents for John Elway, I guess. They were the guy was his insurance agent. Well, he started to go in because the girls started to get into a tussle. So he tried to go intervene, and the big Samoan guy stood up and walks over there, and he was like, the guy just like jaw dropped. It was incredible. But that turned out to be John. Was it Banker? I think it might have been the lineman. It was one of our offensive linemen's sister, and the other guy was Timmy Manoa's brother. It was incredible. So, yeah, so we were there. I spent that night with Jimmy, and we were like, this is crazy. And not to say that the night ended, we were going up to the room, and my wife was already up at the room. We were going to the room, and there was in the hotel where we stayed, it was the same place we stayed the last time for the other championship game, but they had like an open eating area where, you could sit down, and it had like booth seats and tables, and we were walking up to bed, and Nev Chandler and some of the folks were sitting in the booth, and he called us over to the table, and Jimmy ended up going up to bed, but I ended up staying there for a few with Nev, and Nev was up till This is incredible. He was up till probably 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning that morning, and that was the night before the championship game, and had to go out and call the game the next day. But it was incredible. We were telling stories. He was telling stories, and it was great to listen. I mean, he had incredible stories. And then there was a guy that used to do radio in Cleveland that used to imitate Art Modell. Like he had the same voice as Art. I don't know if anybody remembers that gentleman.
That guy was on Trevisano. Was that the same guy?
I'm not sure if that's him. It might have been. He might have went to Trevisano after the 98.5. That's possible. But he was with Nev, and he was. Nev had him doing all kinds of crazy. It was so fun, man. We were like, it was 1:30, so probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours of listening to it went by so fast. It was amazing. But yeah, Jimmy, I known him that long since back and I met him before that, and then naturally not long after that's when Nev got sick, and then Casey took over for a while, and then naturally Jimmy took over. But
what do you think? What do you think's going to happen next as far as who are they going to put in the place?
I don't know. I'm an advocate for Cleveland. I think we need to have the stadium in Cleveland. I think it's a big help to Cleveland. But we're going to have to figure out how they're going to do it and make it a dome, because a lot of people are like don't want a dome, but at this point it means like it's everything. I mean, it's everything. I mean, if you're going to build a new stadium, you have to have a dome. And the way that they're doing them with these super domes and building like living space and everything around them with different types of businesses and so forth, and creating that type of a setup, it can still be done down on that lakefront. I still believe that. Like hopefully with this land deal out in Brook Park, that's I find it kind of hard for people to come there only off of 71 and 480, to get to us to get to that stadium if it was built there. To me, it seems insane. Like to try to have the traffic come one highway, actually two highways, but that convert into one. They actually all convert into one. So to me, it would be just a nightmare as far as traffic. But with that land being purchased, there could be something where, maybe the Browns and the city of Cleveland work something out to where they can help expand Cleveland Hopkins Airport and make it a worldwide airport.
Well, the thing with that airport deal, I was going to ask you who you thought was going to be the next Jimmy Donovan for, who was going to fill the shoes.
Wow.
But
that's
as far as
hard to say. I mean, I'm not sure who there's obviously you have some of the guys that are doing the preseason now that are, I don't know if they're in the same caliber, but I think that what's his name would get a shot.
Rose. Chris Rose? Are you talking Chris Rose?
No, I think what's his name instead. I think the other guy. Although he has, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure that they're in the same category, but they could become that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, are you referring to Zagura? Sorry to cut you off.
Jason Zagura, is that it? Yeah, that's correct.
Nathan,
Jason, listen to me. Nathan Zagura, and I know that.
And then Gerard Cherry, I don't think would be too bad of a play-by analyst. But
and I don't know that they do that. I don't know who has done games. I know that Fox, Justin Fox does games. Those college football games.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll come down to those people turning in, tapes, audio of them to the Browns, and I'm sure that's what's going to be the decision. But and then who knows? I mean, maybe there's somebody that that the organization knows from outside, right now that would come in and do it.
Yeah.
That we don't, that we're not sure of. But
I'm hoping it's kind of Andrew Siciliano.
Who's that?
Andrew Siciliano, who did a couple games used to work for NFL Network.
Yep, I hear you. Yep.
Okay.
Possibility. See, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and that could happen. I mean, I think that there's lots of possibilities as far as that goes. It's not like, so when you think about it, like when Nev, you had Casey that was there that already was doing the sideline stuff and, doing that. So that kind of filled right in. And with his dad's background, his father obviously was play-by-play for the Cleveland Browns before Gib Shanley. But yeah, so, I mean, and then naturally Jimmy Donovan, who was already in his dad's background, like with Boston. So, it's incredible. I mean, that to think I'm just completely like kind of disappointed, like not disappointed, but taken back with everything. I was hoping that everything was going good. I mean, Jim was doing so good, and now, so let's hope he just battles back from this case. I mean, who knows? I mean, it don't sound good, but never give up hope. That's how I am.
And I don't see Dustin Fox taking it just because of him stepping away from his show. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. He just retired away from his show. Well, and I don't know. Maybe that's because he's looking at trying to get in somewhere as an, I don't know that. I mean, but it was
because of he wanted to be with his kids, and he went through a major mental health crisis. Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that, but that's...
Yeah, he almost drank himself to death. Yeah, he talked about it on the air last Monday.
All right, let's, can we cover
Sorry to bring the show down.
Can we cover the next big elephant in the room?
Yes.
What about the stadium? Are they going to move it to Brook Park? And I'll tell you a story about the airport here that I had heard through several conversations with people that I know on this end. The FAA says that in order for them to do away with an airport, there has to be a replacement for it somewhere else within a certain amount of distance. If they want to do away with Burke, there is going to have to be a replacement for it somewhere. I'm not sure with the expansion of that airport I don't know that that's going to fill that bill.
Yeah, and if not, I know that I heard some talk about that too. But Cuyahoga County Airport in Richmond Heights has space to be able to handle more flights, and I don't know as many as they get at Burke, but do they need as many that they get at Burke? I'm not sure. But yeah, that's and there again, if you build Hopkins, I'm not sure what that reality is. And as far as if you build onto Hopkins all that space, that's pretty mammoth airport, to the point where you could almost have a all you'd need is one concourse to handle the traffic from Burke Lakefront Airport. So I don't know about that, but there was one thing that I remember, and I don't know how true, but I always understood it to be the situation, something to the effect of under a port city, you have to have a runway that is long enough to handle certain aircraft that can land, in case of an attack or whatever on, being that you're a port city. And that was my understanding all along why they tried to expand the runway at Hopkins. They never have been able to do it, but the runway at Burke Lakefront is longer. That runway is pretty long there along the lake. So they are able to land the military planes that to land there versus at Hopkins. That's what I understood. And I actually heard that was with the city building commissioner, not the building commissioner, but the city of Cleveland. They were I was PR stuff brought me down there to Columbus with them, and they had Columbus. The cities were Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, and they had models and stuff, and it was all about their and I'm trying to think. It was Hunter Morrison was the commissioner, planning commissioner. I'm sorry. So it was all about planning commission, and they did it at the Woody Hayes Center when that first opened in Columbus. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but that's on right there on Old and Tangy Road, like in the back of the river. And it was built, and I'm going to say it's probably been 20 years now, but I was at it, and also Brian Brennan was there. But that's where I had heard that had come up in the conversation. Somebody had mentioned that, the FAA, for a port city, you have to be able to land, and I forget what airplane it is, but there's a massive airplane that needs a longer runway. And, I just believed that ever since, because all that went on where they took that land by eminent domain. They took the restaurant that used to be there, the Gervis Brown Derby on the corner right there by Burke Park Road. And they were going to build and expand over Burke Park Road, the runway, into where they have what they call the Brown Lot now. And that never took place. And I think it had something to do with they didn't think that they could build the bridge over the road that would hold the weight of the plane. So that was an issue too, because they would have had to do more construction than that they could afford or whatever. But they ended up never doing that. I mean, I don't know if you remember that property was purchased, and they ended up never doing anything. And it wasn't purchased; it was taken by eminent domain. There was a bar there called Night Flights as well on the corner. So there was a bar, a Gervis Brown Derby, and some car lot that they took out of there. And then they built that the bomber squad down the street, and then they had to tear that down and rebuild that. And then they thought that the IX Center was going to get tore down, and they started to build the new observation deck, but the new radar deck. And I don't even think that's being used. They built it thinking that they were going to get the IX Center. So I don't know. So I'm not sure what the actual, the legality of the airports are, but to me, the most, that would be incredible if they could turn that land out at the airport and create, a world-class airport there. That would be fantastic for all of Cleveland. And then, be able to build a stadium that's a dome stadium, or however they do it, down at the lake, and be able to build on that lakefront. I mean, look at how many cities you got. Baltimore, you got Chicago. Look at the lakefronts. It's time that we got into that, and really big stuff for Cleveland. So a lot of good things could come out of this in the end. We still have till 2028 is the contract with the stadium. We had the 30-year contract that we had. So we'll see what happens.
It's hard to believe it. That's almost over.
That is incredible. I
remember when they signed that.
Yeah.
The other thing, there's a couple of questions that come up to me as far as that All right. Say that the Browns do move to Brook Park, and Cleveland, in their ultimate wisdom, does away with the airport and does whatever they were going to do with property. What's going to happen to the air show?
Right. Yeah, that's going to be that would be a situation, but who knows? I mean,
that's got to be a couple of $1 million draw for the economy up there.
Well, and I think that they could do something else with the air show. I mean, they could actually, if they build Hopkins as big as they are, talk about, who knows? They could have a whole area of that would be set aside, where they could have a separate runway to have all those jets take off and run off of there.
And I know what you're talking about as far as the living land around the stadium. And I'd like to see if they're going to do that. They need to do that, but they've been talking about a dome stadium up there ever since I've started watching football, and that was back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
When they built this stadium the last time, I thought they were going to do something with it. And all of a sudden, we can't afford a dome. That's $65 million more. Oh, we can't do that. But we can take and build the building so that we can put a dome on top of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they're saying, well, we can't really do that. If you want a dome, you're going to have to tear the whole stadium down. And then you have these people like that one councilman up there that I saw on TV one night. Well, Cleveland is used to the climate and everything, and we just love to go outside to those outside games. Okay, that might be one thing when it's snowing and it's cold. Do you think for 1 minute that you're going to get a Super Bowl here? Without a dome? Do you think for 1 minute you're going to get a playoff game here without a dome? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the main point of the whole thing. And like when you say, can you put a dome? I always understood in the beginning when they first started talking about the new stadium and actually not so much a new stadium, but working with the stadium we have is that there's possibility of building a field house over top of that. You could literally build a field house over the stadium. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. That could very well happen as well. But I mean, for me, as far as the stadium goes, I'm a Cleveland guy. I'd love to have it in Cleveland. I'd hate to see it leave Cleveland. But that's a situation that's up to the city and the owner at this point. So we'll see what's going on. And like I said, we still have 4 years till that date comes to fruition. So if there's going to be stuff going on, they have to start coming around to it and making some kind of an agreement to what they're going to do in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'd like to see the agreement whatever they're going to do, they need to get it planned and get it announced.
Yeah, and get everybody on board. I want to see everybody. I want to see it a positive thing. I mean, what good is it if everybody's negative to the scenario or whatever? I mean, that doesn't do any good. So we have to make it. I think it has to be something that we can all live with.
They also, if they can do that, they also need to make it a retractable dome. I've thought that's for years too, because of the simple fact you want to. If your weather isn't terrible, and you're not in the middle of
still have the natural.
You still have the natural grass and everything like that
right
inside. The bad part about some of these domes is you play on that AstroTurf or whatever they call it now, and there's such a higher degree of injury, possibility of injury with that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've heard. But it is like you said, though. I mean, those are the things you have to when it comes to the Super Bowls and all the events, the Final Fours and everything that you would be packing into these to this dome, those are the things you got to give up. But and are they worth it in the end? Well, those athletes are playing on that now, and it's not. I mean, one more, artificial turf stadium is not going to change things.
Could you imagine a Super Bowl in Cleveland? I'd go. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I've been to one Super Bowl, and I'll tell you what, it would be the craziest thing. It was like the whole city was wild. And even at the time of the Super Bowl that I went to, there was an ice storm, and this was down at the Georgia Dome. And there was an ice storm, and still the parties, everything was happening. I was there for a whole week. It was incredible.
Well,
Yeah, the city would be, it's a big deal. That's a very big deal.
I think the idea for them is something similar to Cleveland ought to follow something similar to what the Hall of Fame is done down here. And,
Oh yeah, well that's exactly to me what the Cleveland Browns presented in those drawings that's basically what they're saying. They want to build a little village, like a whole community around the stadium. So, and there's plenty of room in Brook Park, but I don't know if the highway situation is good there. But I do know that they have no problem downtown. So that's.
Well, I know that the other thing that I heard, if Haslam decides he's going to take and move to Brook Park like that, which, it's right now it's 50-50, I would say. But some of the perks of that is he would be in control of the parking. If he decided to put up stuff like the Muni lot is.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that is making Cleveland want to keep them here, because they make a ton of money off that Muni lot.
Oh, they do. You're talking 12 times a year or whatever. Not even. It's 10 times a year that they're cashing in. But they get money for that every day, but not the amount of money that they get for the football games. I mean, that actually, I work right down there, and that lot's, busy every day. It's not near as full as it is for a football game, but it stays pretty busy, on a daily routine. So, you'd have to have, something to draw the traffic every single day to a lot like to Brook Park, if you see what I'm saying. In other words, I don't know that unless that area, I mean, with your metropolis that you're building around the stadium, if that's going to draw that many vehicles, you know what I'm saying, every day. But downtown, you do have the Muni lot is used daily. A lot of times you got to wait if there's perfect example. Well, it's not a perfect example, but if you have a Monday night game, let's say, you can't get in there until the people leave that are parked there for work.
Yeah.
People get on there and park in the morning for work. So that's a lot of times why you can't get into the Muni lot until, you might not be able to get in there until 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
But the thing with Brook Park is the Haslams would own that land. Right now, the way it's, and we kind of talked about this already, the way it's structured now is the city owns it. City owns it, and the Haslams are leasing it. So, personally, I think with the Brook Park, it would be also a better move for them to go there, because you're dealing with less private lots where the owners can control their the price of the parking. I mean, like, for example, last year I went with a friend. We were gonna park in a lot on West 3rd, right next to a parking garage. And the lot attendant was like, yeah, don't
Okay.
park here because the owner of this lot's going to charge you double because you drive a truck. And they'll charge you for 2 spots. You know, stuff like that. Like, where the Haslams will have control of that if they move out. They'll have more control over that if they move out to Brook Park than they will in Cleveland.
And they would definitely if they own the lots, but I'm not so sure that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not so sure if they do own the lots that they're going to be able to make the money and like, yeah, you get money during a football game, you're going to make a lot of money, but you got that property, a parking garage, it's not going to be being used for, 6 other days of the week. So, or near as much as it's going to be used for a game. Whereas a lot in Cleveland, they would have it. But my whole thing, like with the scenario, if the Haslams buy the property in Brook Park, okay, if they can cut a deal with the city of Cleveland, that's what I was trying to say earlier. That's where they're going to negotiate, and they're going to take care of like maybe wanting to own the stadium in downtown. Who knows what's going to come of the whole thing. But if what comes out of the whole thing is a world-class, in my eyes, this would be my dream, a world-class airport and a world-class stadium downtown. I mean, how could you go wrong? That's where they would have to negotiate. And that would be the city negotiating. But the city would be smart to negotiate that, because if they got the property and owned it for the airport, they're going to be able to make a ton of money there. They're going to be able to have, more flights coming into Cleveland. They're going to be able to do so much. To me, there's not an end sight there. So.
Yeah.
But with Brook Park, if you build hotels, restaurant, and retail, which is what they're saying they're going to put around the stadium, the lots will be full. I mean, they're probably not making money off of parking in the lots, but they'll make the money from the tenants that are renting out that those buildings for their business. Or am I wrong there?
That's what I'm saying. Where are the people? You're going to be trying to draw people from all over that area. I mean, I think it's a hard draw to bring people to, 7 days a week to fill restaurants and bars and stuff at that location. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could be absolutely wrong, but to me, at the location that it's at, to me, for that type of scenario, I think it's going to be hard to get people to come there.
I have heard that they're going to do expansion. They're going to add a couple exits to, I forget what the main highway over there is, but they're going to add a couple highway exits and entrances over there.
Yeah, you have. Well, but still, it's all going to go into one, which is 71 and 480. Those are the only 2 highways that are in that vicinity. So you're going to have to somehow, if the traffic, I don't care if you have 10 exits, you're still all going to go back onto that same highway, and you're going to have a traffic jam. There ain't no doubt if it's only 71 and 480. I can't see them handling that traffic. I mean, I'm just picturing it, saying, hey, this is, just if you stop and think and look at that area, and I live in West Park, so I live right down the street from where we're talking about. Okay. So I know that to me, I live right off of Rocky River Drive. You drive up Rocky River Drive to Brook Park, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere. I mean, you're not going to be able. I mean, the neighborhoods will be people. I don't know. I mean, it seems real dicey that you could actually accommodate it, but they might have plans. I mean, those people are planners. You have people that do that for a living, but it just to me would be kind of stunning.
And getting your point of view on that is good, because I have not talk to somebody who lives in that area who would be affected by that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great for Airbnb, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I could retire down south and do my Airbnb, no problem, if that's the case. But yeah, to me, I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, but just looking, you know, like if you're going out to Berea for like, if you're going to the Browns for summer camp, you know, you go on that Berea freeway, which is what takes you into Berea, but it's only a little thing that's connected to 71. You got Snow Road, but you still all got to go to 71. That's the only way out of there is I-71 and 480, you know, which will take you east and then west. So, I mean, but what's going to happen is 480 is a bypass highway. You know, like these cities build these bypasses so there's less traffic. So what you would be doing is just piling traffic onto that highway. You know, they'd have to extend it by I don't know how many lanes. You know, you'd be worse than going across the Valley View Bridge, you know, now that they expanded that. But, you know, for all those years, that's what it'd be like every single day. You know, people stuck in that traffic, complaining and screaming and yelling. Believe me, if it was because they built a football stadium there, the people would go berserk. I mean, I could see them go crazy.
It's unfortunate they couldn't get the property over on Lakeside that was rumored to. I know that's where like Channel 3 and other stuff are, but you know that stuff can move easily if they had to, if they were paid
They don't
enough.
even have to, because down where that property is across the road there, and they're talking about moving. That's already been in the plans for years. Is they're talking about moving that Dead Man's Curve.
Yes,
And that's
they are.
going to move the Shoreway. That's going to change. But the big thing there is that that where you have the other side of the Shoreway is where that airport is, and that's the big deal. Is the airport? There's plenty of space there to build all kinds of stuff, and I mean, it's a shame that, you know, our whole lifetime, I know mine, that they haven't built on it, because I've been in Cleveland my whole life and been around listening to politics, and, you know, they've been talking about we were going to do what Baltimore did for, you know, 12 years. They talked about that. Then we were going to do something like Chicago has. And, you know, none of those have came. You know, it was all, you know, people's ideas that never happened. And it's time that we, you know, went forward. You know, and this is just real quick on this politics stuff with the property stuff. So Columbus, Ohio, when I remember basically just talking about going down there for that thing when Brian Brennan went with the city and you know, watching all that. At the time that was, the city, Cleveland had over 1 million people, and Columbus had barely 500. They didn't even have 500. They were in the 400,000 range. Now, I believe Columbus is 1.4 and we're 475 in population. That's what's happened in the last 30 years. The population has literally flip-flopped in Columbus to Cleveland because we haven't been able to do anything. We haven't done it yet. And I don't know if that's politics, because money downstate and money here, you know, how that works. But exactly, I do got an idea, but that's the reality of it.
The fact that you've lost all the manufacturing up there. You've lost all your automakers.
Oh yeah, well that's where that's where the stadium and airport that they're talking about.
And then that's
Ford
also,
Motor Company.
You know, I retired from Chrysler back in 2009. In 2011, they claimed bankruptcy with the other two automakers, and you know what they've basically have done, or what's happened with a a lot of this, a lot of the manufacturing, it's just left the country because you've had things like NAFTA, and I'm not blaming any current politicians anyway for it, Bill Clinton. But you've lost all of that, and the Rust Belt is actually rusting. There's really no manufacturing jobs left in the United States unless you go down south or you go up north to and you go into places like Ontario, Canada, and stuff like that. There's manufacturing up there because it's cheaper. The labor's cheaper and everything like that up there. But that's the reason for the flip flop, I think, of a lot of that. And Columbus has really grown.
It has, and that's what I'm saying. Well, I went and seen those drawings and they had models of what they were going to do with their city, and guess what? Columbus did what they said, but ours never made it. But then again, I don't know if that has to do with the political end of whatever. As far as the politics and the money, go travel from one part of the state to the other. So,
John, it's Cleveland. What do you expect?
Right. Well, that's it. It is what it is. But we have a chance. All that junk aside, I think we have a chance here to really do something in Cleveland, and
I'd love to see it.
I'm holding hope that things work out really well for us with this scenario of the airport and the stadium scenario. I hope that works out well for us. And like I said, we got 4 years until the reality of the reality, but they're going to have to do something in the next couple of years for sure, where they're going to have to let people know what's happening. So, but
but even with the stadium or where it is now, aren't you a little landlocked because the lake being there?
As far as where the stadium is now, or landlocked?
Yeah.
As far as
landlocked, as in, you only have one way kind of getting into the stadium because you have the lake right there.
Well, yeah, and that's the reason why that they said if they do anything with the stadium where it is, they have to have that bridge from the Mall C area down over the tracks, bring in another complete way of getting traffic down to the stadium and then out of the stadium, because right now you can only travel east and west to get in and out of the stadium the way it's set up. So they do have plans for that, but I'm thinking that that if they were to expand, if they were to build right there, if they were to build over that stadium, that they're going to have to use where they have the Port Authority. That's going to have to be, they're going to have to put some kind of parking in there. That's going to have to be a huge parking lot. I don't know if it's going to be multiple floors or what they're going to do. And then you're going to have to have some kind of shops or whatever to go with it if they build there. But I think that the alternative is, I don't know if they're going to be able to move down the street. I mean, they might be able to just build a brand new place down the road where the airport is. People say that you can't do it. It's a landfill. Well, so is the stadium. Right now, it's built on a landfill, and they just rebuilt on the same damn landfill. So
exactly.
I don't understand that argument. But yeah, I think that they could actually build a new stadium, this dome stadium, down the street.
Let's change the subject here. Let's get back to a little football.
There we go.
Who do you think's going to be the toughest ones this year to try to beat?
Our toughest opponents.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I think this first game is huge. Number one, the number one is you have to win. You're at home. You're playing this team that's got such high expectations as they do, as the Cowboys have, as they always do. But I think we have to win that game, number one. But I think that our toughest competition, obviously, is going to be in the North, like it has been forever, with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. and I think all those teams are going to be competitive. I think it's going to be just like last year. Other teams that were playing outside the division, we have, like we're going to be playing maybe with the Giants and stuff. They're not as big of a, you know what I'm saying, as hard of a game. But we got Miami Dolphins this year. That's going to be a tough game. We gotta play Jacksonville again, who's always tough. Who else we got? I'm trying to think of the rest of the roster or the lineup. But I think our toughest battle is right in the North. We have to win the North. We have to win the division.
Yeah,
that's got to be our goal.
The division is supposed to be the toughest in the league this year, and I myself, I got to play you something here. I'm sorry. I'll find it here in a second, but I gotta play you how I feel about this one team that everybody kind of knows this, but you know.
Oh, great!
This is just my feeling about a certain team.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Pittsburgh.
I hate Pittsburgh.
They're our biggest foe, my biggest foe. I used to have a lot of fun in the dog pound with Rodney Hampton, their nose tackle that they used to have. We used to, those guys would warm up right in front of us, in front of the dog pound, and man, we would have at it. It was some good times, some really good times with that scenario. We used to give them hell, to say the least.
If there's ever a chance of my TV having a foot through it, it's usually a Pittsburgh game.
Yeah,
I've wanted to put my foot through that television so often, but I refrain.
Hey, at least they're able to beat Pittsburgh in recent history. Now that Roethlisberger's not there, and well,
I think personally, I kind of think that Pittsburgh's going to take another couple of years before they come back to any kind of glory.
Well,
I don't think
they don't have a quarterback.
I don't think they've got the quarterback yet. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of their scenario is a little bit like ours. I mean, they got a quarterback that we don't know what he's going to do, if he's going to be anything like himself, Russell Wilson, or is he going to be a situation where he doesn't play? I mean, I'm hoping it's the latter, that he can't come back to what he was at one time. But I'm hoping our guy can get back to what he was at one time, because that's a major player on our team. I mean, we have to have Watson come out and play good football. So to me, Pittsburgh, I think they're in the same kind of scenario with Russell Wilson. I mean, they're looking at trying, and they're always competitive on their defense, but they always seem to be there, dang it. Every year, I think we got a better club than them, but they're there and they're competing with us, and it drives me nuts.
Every year, or actually going back to Dallas for a minute, I do a show on Saturday mornings that I have 2 Dallas fans there, actually 3 of them, and it's called 4 Guys on Sports. There's me and 3 Dallas fans. And my son actually he lives and works in Dallas, and he's turned into a fan down there. And his brother or his 2 brother-in-laws, Nate and Gordon, are they're both Dallas fans. They've lived in Dallas for a long time.
Yeah.
They're actually from Cleveland, the Cleveland Akron area, but they're living down there now because of the work and everything. But they got talking about the expectations of Dallas, and their fans aren't thinking they're going to do anything. About the only thing they got going for them is Dak, and they were saying that Cleveland's. But now all of a sudden, Gordon's starting to change his tune a little bit and saying, well, we might be able because your quarterback's not going to play and you ain't going to have Chubb.
They just got Devin Cook and they got CeeDee Lamb, and they got a pretty good team. I would not. No way would I take them lightly. I'll tell you right now, and I think.
Go ahead.
Around the country, there's high expectations for the Dallas Cowboys. So, I think that we have to come out, and this is a big game for the Browns. I think they have to come out and play hard.
Them signing CeeDee Lamb was kind of a surprise to a lot of people, including myself. I didn't think they'd have that much money, but they signed him for an enormous amount of cash. Well,
look at what the Browns have been able to do with the money, like we talked earlier in the show. That was there's ways around these caps now, and I think people are starting to see it, and these clubs are able to start, restructuring people, and these owners have, a lot of money and they're spending it, and it's, they want to win. That's the bottom line. All these NFL teams, they want these stadiums that we've been talking about. They want these super stadiums, and they want to, have all of it. That's what it's about. So,
all right.
I don't know.
Are you an OSU fan?
I'm not. I'm a Buckeye fan.
That's what I mean. The Buckeye fan's what I meant. You're a Buckeye fan,
yeah.
So you're in good company here.
Yeah, it's both my daughters are Ohio State grads, so they're still paying money. So we're definitely rooting for them guys.
Eric, did you want to, or Aaron, did you want? Evan. One, you know who you are. Evan, you want to inject anything here? You look kind of lost.
No, I'm just along for the ride. I'm having fun listening to this. But you've covered most everything I could have asked, so I don't have a whole lot more to add.
All right. Well, I guess we'll turn it back. We can let Evan, or we can let Erik have a shot at it now.
Well, okay. Sticking with the Ohio State thing, are you concerned that they were only able to score 7 points in the first quarter against Akron?
No, because it seems like every year they open up with these teams from the MAC and these other teams and they tend to struggle. I mean, Ohio State have tended to struggle with their opening game and at least in the first half of the game. They tend to come on in the end of the game. But I mean, was it Michigan or Western Michigan that they played a couple of years ago that actually had them right down to the wire? So. Yeah, I mean, early in the year, I think it's a reality. I mean, teams are just getting into their swing of things. In college football, that is. I mean, it's a little bit different, but they have to win. I mean, that college game, if you lose a game, it's big, especially if you're like Ohio State and ranked number 2 in the country. If you drop a game early, you got a chance to come back, but it's a tough deal. As we've seen with Alabama last year, they had a lot of pressure.
What do you think about the pressure on Ryan Day this year, especially with if he loses to Michigan? This is 4 years in a row that they've lost. Is that a fireable offense?
I don't know what'll happen, but he'll definitely have heat on him. But they were just talking about how he has, I think, the winningest record for starting head coach, like only Newt Rockney, and they said something in the game Saturday that kind of blew me away. Like, he's like one of the best starts of any college coach in the history of college football. His record. I think he's only lost, 3 or 4 games, maybe? Is that right?
Those 3 or 4 games tend to be in big spots.
Yeah, well, 3 of them have been Michigan, like you said, and that's a problem.
And then the one was Georgia. That one wasn't his fault because the kicker missed the game-winning field goal. But still, that's they should not have been in that position for a game-winning field goal because they were up by 10 at the beginning of the game, or even more.
Right.
But
I'm a fan of Ryan Dato. I think he's a good coach. I think he's solid. He just has to get over that Michigan thing, and I don't know. It's I don't know why the team don't get up for that game. I mean, it kills me that they. It's frustrating because that's like we were just talking about Pittsburgh and the Browns. I feel the same way with the Buckeyes in Michigan. I don't like that at all. That's a tough deal.
I wonder if that was a Jim Harbaugh thing where he just had our number, and now because he knows the history of that rivalry, being he played at Michigan. So I wonder if they'll drop off, being that Sharon Moore understands it, but it might mean a little different to him as somebody who just coached, or who's just a coach versus a player.
I mean, that's possible, but Urban beat him. You know, like when he was there, didn't lose to him, I don't think.
No.
And then you have the scenario of last year. Actually, he didn't coach in the game last year. Remember, he was suspended.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy that's the coach this year, I think, yes, I think he's the coach this year. Michigan's head coach this year was the fill-in coach last year against Ohio State and beat them. So
But even though Harbaugh was suspended, he was able to coach during the week, which I don't
he
understand.
actually coached the team during the week. You're right. I that is true. That was true. I'm just not a big Harbaugh fan.
Oh, I'm not either.
I know. I'm not giving him an edge here. That's
The name Harbaugh tends to ring synonymous with losses to Ohio.
yeah. That's it. Well, in the last couple of years, anyways, he's got my goat.
As well as everybody else's. We need to wrap this up. John, it's been a blast having you, man. I hope you can get free to come back with us sometime in the near future. It's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad we got you in here to talk.
Yeah, it's fun.
I will go ahead.
It's good to talk to Browns fans. That's it's my life forever. So it's great to talk to Browns fans. So
I will go ahead and you turn it over to Erik to wrap it. But like I said, it's been a blast having you. I hope you come back, and we'll be in touch. How do people get a hold of you? You got a Twitter account or anything like that?
Nah, I'm kind of lay low in it, but it's just I just have my email. I mean, I don't have anything that's
Social media.
Yeah, the wife's FaceTime, but I don't have anything like that. No Twitter or nothing.
Do you have an email you'd want to give out?
It's just dawg98@aol.com.
Sweet. All right. Erik,
Okay.
it's over to you.
Well,
sir.
I want to second what Pat said and thank you so much for your time. We
Oh, no
so
doubt.
appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. That was fun.
Oh, anytime. You're welcome anytime. But with that, I say thank you everybody for listening and have a great night.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Pittsburgh!
For the whole state of Michigan, we're from Ohio.